Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mariela Salinas, and I'm a digital marketing specialist here at United Training. Welcome to today's webinar, 5 Tips in 20 Minutes Microsoft Teams Calls, presented by Joseph Christian. We are using the GoToWebinar platform for today's session, and we will be sharing a copy of this recording with you. We do encourage participation throughout the webinar, so please use that questions option in your GoToWebinar dashboard for our Q&A portion after the presentation. United Training is excited to present this webinar today. I will now hand it over to you, Joseph.
All right, thank you very much. So welcome everyone. I'm excited to go over 5 tips for getting on Microsoft Teams calls. Just a quick disclaimer, you want to have the latest version of Teams to get some of these features. Sometimes different companies update Teams at different points, so you might not have some of these updates. You can always reach out to your IT to see when those are coming or why you don't have certain features, that type of thing here. Teams also works a little bit differently when you are in the web browser. So if you're in Chrome or Edge, it might be a little bit different. You might not have all the features we're talking about in here today, because we're talking about using that desktop app downloaded to your computer. All right, so without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at our first tip while being on a Teams call. And this is going to be turning off incoming video. And what we're talking about here is sometimes when you're on a call, your Wi-Fi might not be that great, right? Especially with so many of us working from home now. We might have kids at home doing school stuff or whatever it is. So if your internet is slower and you don't have a lot of bandwidth and you're on a call, maybe the call is cutting out. People are looking like a robot when they have their video on. We can do a couple of different things, and one of the things is turning off incoming video. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like. So you can see on my screen here, I'm on a call and it's telling me I have bad network quality, right? My bandwidth is low here. So the first thing I want to do is turn off my own video, okay? Because video takes up a lot of bandwidth. So I turn off my own video is the first thing I want to do. But then you can also actually turn off incoming video, which means turning off the video that's coming in from everyone else. So I'm on this call with my buddy Ryan here. Now he doesn't have his video on, but let's say that he did. And I don't necessarily want to tell everyone else on the call to turn their video off. I remember actually doing this before and say, hey, can everyone please turn off your cameras? I don't have good bandwidth here. My Wi-Fi is pretty slow. And that was an issue, you know, because they want to see each other. So instead of telling other people to turn off their cameras, you can simply turn off their cameras for just you. So they can still see each other, but you won't see their videos, so it won't take up a lot of your bandwidth. So what we're going to do this is we're going to come up to these dots. Now my dots are up at the top. Sometimes, depending on the version of Teams you're in, there might be down at the bottom of the Teams call. Now I'm going to come up and click on the dots up here. And when you click on those dots, it gives you this menu with all these different options. And we're going to come down to right to the bottom here, second to the last item from the bottom. It says turn off incoming video. And if you do that, again, that will turn off everyone else's video that you're seeing, but they can still see each other. This is such a huge help if your internet isn't that great and you're on a call, and again, you don't want to tell everyone else to turn off their cameras. So if your bandwidth is low, turn off your camera first, and then if it's still bad, go ahead and turn off the incoming video from everyone else, and hopefully you'll see that that has a really good impact on your bandwidth there. All right. And again, that was clicking on those dots. We're going to take a look at some more options, more things that we can do by clicking on those 3 dots up there. All right, so that's the first tip. Turn off that incoming video if you have low bandwidth. The next one that we're going to take a look at is applying background effects. Now, this is probably one of the more well-known things, so you might be aware of this, you might have done it before. And the background effects is when you want to hide your background when you turn your camera on. There's a couple of different features to this that you might not be aware of, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at this. So let's say that I do want to turn my camera on, okay, but I don't want everyone to see what's behind me, my living room, or my coworkers walking around, or whatever it is. Notice before you even turn your camera on, when you point at it, you can go to more background effects. You can also do this if you already have your camera on as well, okay? So I'm pointing at the camera, or if I have my camera on already, I can go to my dots, and when I click on those good old dots there, I'm gonna come down to our apply background effects, okay? If you already have your camera on. Go to the dots, go to apply background effects, and it's gonna take a second here to pop up. And you're gonna see we have a bunch of different options in here. One of those options that I really like is just a blur. So it's not putting a new background. You can't really tell on me because I just have a white background, but it's just gonna blur whatever's going on behind you. But there's other options in here. You can see they've added some winter options. I can be in a nice ice hotel if I want to. So they give you some different options. The thing that I want you to be aware that you can do is you can actually add your own background in here as well by clicking on add new. So for instance, I have a background that has my company logo on it. So let's take a look at that. I can click on add new, and it's gonna let me choose pictures from my computer. So I'm gonna go ahead and double click on the one that I've got set up ahead of time here. And that's actually going to, if you can see my picture in here, it might take a second, let me pop it back up. It's gonna add that to my options for backgrounds. Okay, so you click on add new, and then it's gonna add them down here to the bottom of your list. You can see I've got this background down here, which has my company logo. So you can use the backgrounds they give you. Notice you can also preview the background before everyone else sees it. So if you're in the middle of the call and you wanna do that, you can absolutely do that. To turn it off, you just come up and click the little off symbol here. And once you got it set, you click apply. Okay, so if I want to do the one that I just added, I click on it and click apply. You'll see now it gives me my image with my company logo, kind of nice. Or I can turn it off by coming back up to the top and just turning it off up here. And then again, press apply. So preview will let you see it before everyone else does. And once you're sure that's the one you want, you click apply, and that will turn it on or off for you there. Okay, so again, a lot of people might be at least somewhat aware of that one, but there's some extra features in there. So go up to your dots when you have your camera on and go to apply background effects to take a look at those different background effect options in there that we have. All right, so now let me pull up the next one. So that was applying the background effects when you don't want everyone to see what's going on behind you. Next, the next one we're going to look at here is our screen share view options. What on earth am I talking about? Well, one of the things that we run into in Teams is sharing our screen, right? And you might do this a lot. I share my screen frequently with the types of calls that I'm on. You might not share your screen much. And then every once in a while, you might need to share your screen with someone, right? So for instance, maybe I'm on a Teams call with someone from IT, trying to show them an issue I'm having. And then now they say, oh, share your screen. I'm like, okay, how do I do that? What am I supposed to do? Or maybe you're on a meeting and you're presenting. What's the best way? Because we have some different options when it comes to screen sharing. Okay, and before we get into sharing our screen with other people, we want to take a look at what it looks like when someone else is sharing the screen with us. So you can see my good buddy Ryan here is sharing his screen, right, which has our slideshow on it. Now, have you ever been seeing someone else share their screen and you're thinking, I can't really see that very well. It's kind of small. Maybe I'm looking at the slides over here on the side and I say, I can't really read that. And then we maybe ask them to make it bigger, or hey, is there any way you could zoom in? And that's fine. But we actually can change the way that we see the screen when someone else is sharing their screen. This is hugely helpful, I think, to kind of maneuver the best way to see it. So once again, we're coming up to our little ellipses up here. The more actions button, that dot, dot, dot. So Ryan shares his screen and I say, maybe I could make that a little bit bigger, move things around. So I'm gonna click on my dots up here while he's sharing his screen. And I'm gonna come down to about the middle of this menu. And you'll see I have 3 different options: gallery at top, focus, and full screen. All right, so what do these all mean? Let's just kind of play around with them a little bit here. Gallery at top, when it's talking about the gallery, it's talking about where I see everyone else's icons and video. So the default is to put everyone on the side. But sometimes, depending on the nature of what they're sharing, it might actually make it a little bit easier for you to see if you moved everyone up to the top. I also like to do this if there's a lot of people that I want to see during the screen share, because there's more space to kind of line everyone up at the top. So let's take a look at that. So I come up to my dots while Ryan shares his screen, and I come down to the middle here and I select Gallery at Top. And when I select that, there we go. It moves everyone else to the top. Now it actually made my screen a little bit smaller, which is why they don't default to it. But it's nice if you want to see everyone on the call and there's a little bit more people up there. Okay, so that's one option we have. Move that gallery to the top. Let's go back to our dots. Notice we can also focus. And what focus will do, will actually do the opposite of what we just did, and it will hide everyone else. So if you're trying to see more of the screen and you say, okay, I can't see it very well, I want it to be bigger, I don't care about seeing everyone else's video, so I want to focus. So you go up to your dots and you can select focus, and there we go. See how it kind of hid Ryan's picture, right? And if he had his camera on, it would kind of put all of those aside. Now it's nice and big. And we can take it one step further by making it full screen. So if we go up to our dots again, the third option we have is full screen. So this is going to take away the top banner and maybe the taskbar, you know, some of those extra things floating around on the screen. So I go ahead and select full screen, and there we go. I don't have the taskbar on the bottom, and that very top bar is gone. Okay, so this is the way to make the screen as big as possible. So when someone's sharing their screen, you want to try maybe some of these first before you interrupt to ask them to zoom in or something like that. Okay, so I just want you to be aware that some of those options are there. Notice that we can have multiple of these on at a time. So it's just check boxes. You can kind of grab some of these. To turn them off, you just come back and click on them again, and that will uncheck the item. So if I don't want it to be full screen anymore, I just click the dots, select full screen, and that will pull it out of full screen. Go to the dots, select focus again, that will turn off the focus. And then if I go back to the dots and I don't want the gallery at the top anymore, I can click on that, and that will turn the gallery off from the top and bring it right back over to the side. Okay, so all of those options are in the three dots right here in the middle. Gallery at top, focus, and full screen. So those are our screen share views when someone else is sharing their screen. This will not affect how other people see it, okay? You're just changing it for you. Sometimes we get a little bit nervous, right? Because we think, oh no, is this going to change it for everyone? Is everyone going to see that I did that? What if I screw something up? Nope, that's just bumping it around for just me to customize it best for me, okay? It's going to stay the same for everyone else how they have it set. So don't worry about it messing it up for anyone else. All right, so those are our screen share views. Now that's when someone else is sharing their screen. When we go to share our screen, we want to be aware of the different presenter mode options. Now, you do not have to use some of these fancier presenter mode options. If you just want to share your screen and leave it at that, that's fine. But what you run into sometimes when you share your screen, maybe they can't see your video anymore. Or maybe you want to change where they see your video, especially if you're giving a presentation or something like that. So we're just going to take a look at some of those presenter mode options. Now these are going to be when we go to share our screen, okay? Now Ryan's sharing his screen. I don't actually have to have him stop sharing in order for me to share. Now you can only share your screen if you're a presenter. So if you're not a presenter, you're not going to have the ability to share your screen. But assuming that you're a presenter on the call, you're going to be able to share your screen by going up to the share content button, which is this little up arrow. So I'm going to click on that share content button, and it gives me kind of a few different content sharing options. We can do a whiteboard and all sorts of different things. So you want to share your screen, right, by clicking on the screen option. But before you do that, just to be aware, there's these presenter mode options, and these haven't been around for too long, so you might not be aware of them. And what those are going to allow me to do is change the way that my video appears to everyone else, because sometimes your video disappears for them, or it gets kind of put to the side. So let's say it's important for me that they see me while I'm presenting, something like a slideshow or something like that. So it defaults to the first option, which is content only. But I want them to see me, and I'm going to put myself right on top of the screen. So I'm going to choose this second presenter mode option, which says turn on your camera to select this layout. So I'm going to click that one. Oh, no, it's telling me turn on your camera if you want to do this one. All right, I'll turn on my camera here. All right, so I go to present, and I'm going to choose this second option, which is standout. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Okay, so I choose it, and then I'm going to select my screen. So I click on the screen to share with everyone, and look what it does for me here. Oh, I lost my screen. Let me bring it back over here so you guys can see what it looks like. So it puts me actually right on top of the slide. Now this is great. Just be aware that you're blocking part of the slide, part of the screen, right? So if you're doing something like a presentation, you might want to make sure that your slides don't have all the important information right in the bottom corner where you're covering up. This is one of my favorite ways to present. I just think it's really cool. Kind of a nifty trick. All right, let's look at another one here. That one may not be the best if you're worried about blocking part of the screen. So I can also go to share, and I'm going to choose the side-by-side option. And the side-by-side option is going to put me next to the content. The downside to this one is that it makes it pretty small, okay? So you just want to be aware of that. But depending on what you're sharing, this might be a good option too, because now there's a lot of emphasis on me, probably more so than what's on the screen, but they can still see both of them. And if you don't like the background, you see that kind of background behind me, you can change that too, okay? And that's what you're gonna see when you look at this add background option. So if I click on add background, I can say, okay, I don't really like the one they're giving. Maybe I want this nice bluish purplish one, okay? And then that way, when I go in and choose the side by side, it'll just change that background option in there for me. And so you can kind of customize that. So again, might not be something that you do for a quick screen share just to show someone something, but if you're giving a presentation or something like that, these can be some nice options that are available to us, okay? So again, you're only gonna see those when you go to share your content. That was the one that was not in the ... You go to share your content, and then you'll see those presenter mode options right at the top in there. So you choose your presenter mode, and then you click on the screen that you want to share. And if you don't choose one, it'll just default to the content only that we're used to. Okay, so that was our fourth tip, using those presenter mode options when we are sharing our screen. The last tip I want to show you is Meet Now. And this, I think, is so helpful if you want to play around with all of the things that we talked about today. And we didn't talk about everything you can do. Maybe you want to play around with the whiteboard, or there's all sorts of things that you can do. So Meet Now is a way to create a meeting just for you to experiment with and play on. You can add other people to the call, okay? So it's designed to create a quick meeting and then invite other people to it. And you're gonna find it in your calendar, okay? So when you click on your calendar tab, you'll see that there's a Meet Now option up in the top right corner. And that Meet Now option is going to just create, you just click on it and select Start Meeting, and it just creates a new meeting with no one else on it. So I highly suggest, especially if you're not used to sharing your screen and you're not used to doing some of these different things, just go into your calendar in Teams, go to Meet Now, create a meeting. No one else has to be added to it, and you can go in and play around with it. Okay, so those are our 5 tips. For low bandwidth, turn off your incoming video. For hiding your background, use the apply background effects. For viewing the screen share, use the gallery focus and full screen. For sharing your screen, use presenter mode, and then to practice, use the Meet Now that you can find in your calendar. All right, so before we wrap up here, just a reminder to advance your skills during this month of November. You can use the promo code KNOW50 to save 50% all month long on over 350 courses, including Microsoft Teams. All right, so you can go ahead and go to unitedtraining.com for more information on that. All right, and then any questions? If you haven't already, you can go ahead and throw those in the chat there.
Alrighty, I'll give our attendees a little bit more time to throw in some questions, but we do have a couple here right off the top. We have one here from Melanie. Does clicking the focus change the view for all participants?
Good question. Nope. So although the ones that we looked at, there are some things that you can do that will change it for everyone, but everything that we looked at is just for you. So when you choose focus or full screen, that's just going to be for you.
Awesome. And then we have another one here from William. It's hard to tell what screen you are sharing when using the web version of Teams. Is there a way to identify screen share better when using the web version?
That's a tough question. So when you are in the web version of Teams here, and you want to go to show, I'll show you real quick because I've got Ryan's up here, and you go to share. That's a good point because when you go to do your screen share, it says desktop or window, and you click on it, and it should be showing you a preview of what they look like. Okay, so you want to select it, and that's going to be the screen you're sharing. I don't know that there's a better way. I mean, we're kind of stuck with what they give us. So you just kind of want to look and make sure you're choosing the correct screen. If your screens look similar, though, that can be a little bit tricky because you don't always know what screen 1 or screen 2 is. So I say just bring up something that's distinctive on one of your screens so you can kind of find the one that you're looking for. So that's the best I got. Hopefully that's helpful.
Super helpful. And then we have another one here from Emily. She was asking about how to zoom in on your screen. Isn't there a way to zoom in by pressing Alt plus something else? I can't think of the exact key combination.
Yes, that's a great question. So let's say you're trying to share your screen and you want to zoom in. So I'll bring over my PowerPoint here. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can use control with the plus and minus sign. So control plus is going to be zooming you in. My favorite way to do it, I don't know if anyone's tried this or done this before, is control scroll. So I'm going to hold down control on my keyboard and then scroll up with my mouse. And you see how that just really quickly zooms in and out? So control, hold down control and then use the scroll wheel on your mouse. That's my favorite way. But yep, you can do control and the plus and minus keys as well. Absolutely, great question.
Awesome. We have a couple more here. If I share my screen and I'm making a PowerPoint presentation, I can't see when people use the chat. How can I overcome this?
Yes, that's a great question. So you actually will see, and this is a little bit trickier because it depends on what version of everything that you have. But you'll see, like in PowerPoint here, I actually have the option to present this PowerPoint in Teams up here at the top. And then when you're on a Teams call, let me see if it'll pop up in the web version here. It actually adds PowerPoint options separately from sharing your screen. So what I would suggest doing is if you're trying to do a PowerPoint presentation and you want to see the chat and all that fun stuff, share it through the PowerPoint option, not through this screen share, okay? Because that's going to bring up your whole screen and that can get a little bit dicey. So if you choose the PowerPoint option, that way you'll be sharing your PowerPoint kind of directly in Teams and you can actually navigate through Teams and you can still see the chat and some of that other stuff going on the side.
Perfect. We have another one here from Shannon. Is there a way to share dual screens when you're working with 2 monitors?
Ooh, that's a really good question. So if you're trying to go in and share 2 screens, I don't know that it gives you that option to share multiple. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe that might be something that's coming, but as far if it ever does come, it would just say share all screens or share multiple screens. So just look for that, because not sure that it's there yet, but if it's not, it might be coming.
Alrighty. How do you allow another member to be a presenter? And does it default to allow all as presenters? This is from Janice. Great question.
Yes, that is a great question. So the default is going to depend on kind of your company settings, but if it just goes with the Microsoft default, then everyone in your company would automatically be a presenter when they get on the call. So to make those changes, so let's say someone was a presenter or wasn't, and you wanted to make a change in there to that, you would come over to the participants option. And so that's a little people icon. And then you can change them by clicking on the dots. So if Ryan was still in this call in here, I would click on the dots next to his name, and I would be able to say make presenter or turn off his ability to present. Okay. Now you have to be a presenter usually to be able to do that, or the organizer. But if you are, then you can go in, yep, you click that participants button up here at the top, and then click the dots next to the person to change their level in there. You can actually go up to those three dots we were looking at and go to your meeting options to see what those defaults are. So if you're on the call and you're thinking, wow, how come no one can share their screen or something like that, go to those dots, go to meeting options, and then you'll see in here, oh, okay, who can present? Everyone. Maybe I want to change that to just people in my company or only me. So you can make those changes by going up to the dots and meeting options if you want to change that for everyone on the call, or you can go to participants and change it for them individually in there as well.
Awesome. We got a couple more. I think we're probably going to cap out at 12:30, guys. So if you guys don't get your answers question, please still put them in the chat. Someone will follow up with you on any questions you have. And we have another one here from Mary. How does it applying a background affect your bandwidth? Is it larger or smaller?
That's a really good question. So yes, changing your bandwidth, or sorry, changing your background. I don't know how much it's hard to tell because they're always kind of changing the way, tweaking the way they're doing it. It does take more bandwidth, but often what they'll do is kind of lower the quality of your video a little bit. So to answer your question, yes, it does affect things. If your bandwidth isn't great, that's a good point. You might not want to turn on that background because that is going to take a little bit more from your computer on that one. So it's either going to affect the bandwidth, or it might affect the quality of your video to kind of compensate. So yeah, great point. That's another thing to be aware of is, if your bandwidth isn't that great, maybe try turning off, if you still want your camera on, maybe try turning off those background effects.
Awesome. We have another one here from Morgan. When screen sharing a particular window, how do we switch between windows without stop sharing?
I don't know that you can. Let me try it here real quick. So I'm going to say share screen and go up and share this screen here. And it's going to bump me over. So now let's see if I pull this back in. Yeah, see, it won't let you. I was hoping, but I didn't think so. There is no way, as far as I know, because they only give you that stop sharing button. They don't give you the option to share. So you'd have to stop sharing and then switch over. Right, so they don't let you share multiple screens at once, then they don't let you really easily go back and forth, unfortunately.
Alrighty, we have another one here from Janice. If we don't have the Meet Now option, we don't have the latest version of Teams, correct?
That is a possibility. Or one thing to look for, so if you're in your calendar and you don't have the Meet Now up in the top, it could be a version thing, or it could be that for some reason your company has turned that feature off. Or let me see if it's available in, not sure if it's something that's available in the web browser or not. Okay, it is. So it might be something that your company has turned off as well. That's why I always suggest if you're not seeing a certain feature, you can always reach out maybe to IT or something to say, hey, do we not have that Meet Now? Because sometimes for different security reasons or different reasons, they might turn some of these things off.
Alrighty, and a last question we have here is, From Janice, how can we do chat and work with files in Teams without losing one or the other?
Can you say that one again?
How can we, I'm assuming, how can we use the chat and work with files in Teams without losing one another? Do you mean like from switching from one
Oh,
thing to the
okay, I
other,
see.
I
Yep,
think? Yeah.
absolutely. So if you're in the chat, you can actually put chats into a different window. So if you're trying to work with the files, like the files tab over here in Teams, and you don't want to keep going back and forth and back and forth. So I'm in a conversation here. If I right click on this chat, you'll have the option to pop that chat out. Oh, it might not be in the web version. Let me see if I get out of this call here. But you can go through, all right, I don't think it's gonna be in the web. So let me come up here. So I can go to this conversation and right click on it or click on the dots and you'll see the option to pop out chat. So I can pop out this chat and move it to a different window or just kind of move it aside, right? And then I can come down here to my files and I can be working in my files tab with having that conversation there. So yeah, you can always, if you have the latest version of Teams, again, that's a versioning thing because that wasn't always there, but you can right click on a chat and select pop out and that'll pop that chat out so you can still keep working in Teams in your calendar and all that stuff and then have that chat separate. I think that was the question. Hopefully that answers that question.
100%. I think it does, yes.
Okay, perfect.
All righty. Perfect. Yep, Janice. Yep. Thank you, Janice. The best. I love all these questions. All righty. I think that comes up to our time. Thank you all so much for joining, and thank you so much, Joseph. This was a lot of amazing information. Again, we will be sharing this recording with all of you in an email after the webinar, so keep an eye out for that one if you want to go back and look at any of these tips. Thanks again, everybody. I really enjoyed having you guys here, and I love these questions. And thank you again, Joseph. Have
Thank
a
you. Have a great
great
day.
rest of your day.